Air Force Secretary says that he's seen nothing more disturbing in 50-year career than this move by China. Of course, talking about the nuclear moves that China is making. It says that China's expansion of its nuclear arsenal is the most disturbing development that Air Force Secretary Frank Kendall has seen in his decades-long career, he told lawmakers on Tuesday. Kendall made the statement during a hearing before the House Appropriations Committee on Tuesday. Kendall, with a 50-year U.S. military and defense career, says that China's development into a top-level nuclear power is a major issue. I don't think I've seen anything more disturbing in my career than the Chinese ongoing expansion of their nuclear force. Kendall told lawmakers for decades they were quite comfortable with an arsenal of a few hundred nuclear weapons, which was fairly clearly a second strike capability to act as a deterrent. Kendall stated that expansion that they are undertaking puts us into a new world that we've never lived in before, where you have three great powers, essentially with large arsenals of nuclear weapons. So this is something that, of course, we've been covering since they said that they were then going to create 300 new missile silos. Estimates put them that they were already there. And then, of course, they say by a certain year, they'll have 1,500. All of those numbers are going up drastically, just like they did with their Navy, where all of a sudden they had the largest Navy in the world. They believe that they will have the largest Air Force in the world very soon with carbon copies of our fifth-generation jets. Of course, that was most likely, well, we know it was stolen from the U.S., backlogs. And then, of course, you have their Army, which they are growing and growing and growing. So this is pretty disturbing, and finally some people are actually speaking out about it. But we'll talk about this and much more on tonight's show, including water on the moon. We'll go over everything that's going on with Vlad. We'll be talking about, of course, all of the things that Xi is doing that is very obvious, and the threats that they made against us if we visit Taiwan. We'll be right back right after this. Nothing in the show should be considered legal, medical, or financial advice. The views of the callers can differ considerably and do not necessarily reflect my opinion, Dex's opinion, or anyone else who works with the show. You should always do your own research and consult with professionals. The internet is full of fake news, so please take everything with a grain of salt. If you have not already, it helps us out if you end up going through any of our affiliates, and it helps you out if you end up protecting yourself against cybercrime. NordVPN is one of the best and one of the easiest to use. If you do not have a virtual private network, it protects your IP address, which is your online identity, which actually connects to your real address and everything else. It also connects to you. If you know anything about how they are data logging and basically getting your profiles down, you can prevent that by having a VPN. Nord is, again, one of the easiest. Download it. It's like an on switch and off switch. All you have to do. Go to marfooglenews.com/VPN. Not only will you get a giant discount on this, but you will also be helping us. I appreciate your support, and I appreciate everyone that goes through any of our affiliates. Can't say thank you enough. All right, what is going on, guys? It's Adam, a.k.a. Marf, and this is Marfoogle News. If you've never been here before, remember you can always get a full bibliography of all of our sources over on Marfoogle News. When you go there, you can see it's all done by thumbnail. You will look for Iron Sky, Water on the Moon. And when you see that, we have every single source for every single article, tweet, video, picture, document that we're going to reference right there at your fingertips. That way, if you do want to read along with a second device or grab a tablet, you can do so. Or you can go back retrospectively and check our work. Make sure to also go check out the overflow. We'll talk about that briefly at the very end. That is all of the stuff that could not fit into the show or is too hot for TV, kind of stuff that you would get in a fight at the bar if you talk about. So make sure to go see that. And then, of course, also check out marfooglenews.com/friends if you are interested in subscribing to any of the mods. They do a wonderful job of keeping the chat peaceful. Of course, there's a few thousand down there chatting, so make sure to come in and say hi if you haven't already. All right, let's bring in my co-host/internet brother, Dex James. What is going on, and how are you doing?
Hello, Adam, and hello, Foogle fam. I'm doing just fine.
So forgive me, you guys. I am all of a sudden out of the weather, and I got the sickness. So pretty much everybody did in my household. So that kind of sucks, but we're powering through it. So if I can't talk or if I have to pause for a second there, just be patient, okay? And let's see here. Musk experts urge a pause on AI systems, citing risk to society. You guys probably know my opinions on this. I have a pretty anti-AI, a very strong opinion as far as anti-AI. I think that they are going way too fast. There's no oversight, and they're blasting through these things, not realizing the consequences of what it will do. There's a certain part of like evolution we're supposed to go through, but I don't think that our human beings right now and our culture and the way that we are running things right now is so backwards. The fact that we are now such a broken system and then going to bring in AI and this powerful of AI is absolutely terrifying. Our whole infrastructure is all built in. The other night we were talking about if cell phone and social media and all of that went down, people said, well, I lived before social media and I lived before cell phones and I wouldn't care if it went down. I think it would be great and all of that. The problem isn't the social media or the cell phones. The problem is that all of our infrastructure is connected to this very network. In fact, they've even taken out the hardline capabilities on things. You're talking about now they've switched over to the more efficient infrastructure of this, Internet of Things, but they have also taken, in a lot of cases, the old school ways out. Not an exact example, but it's like kind of like how in your house you may have gotten cable through internet and you added your phone and your landline phone through that. If the internet goes down, so would your phone. People had landline phones for that reason, but who has a landline anymore? I virtually know no one besides myself that has one. So it's pretty crazy to think about, how they are basically connecting everything to this. And when you add in AI, this stuff gets really, really freaky. Many people that are not following all of the things that AI is doing and how it can do it, they probably wouldn't understand why this is so scary. When you then combine this with advanced robotics, we're talking about replacing every middle wage job in the country, if not the world. Obviously in the world. So this would take out the middle class. This would take out the lower class. It would take out all classes. It would basically be the rich and the poor. And basically they say, in the future, you will own nothing and be happy. Maybe this is why. Elon Musk and a group of artificial intelligence experts and industry executives are calling for a 6-month pause in developing systems more powerful than OpenAI's newly launched ChatGPT-4 in an open letter citing potential risks to society and humanity. The letter, issued by a nonprofit Future of Life Institute and signed by more than 1,000 people, including Musk, called for a pause on advanced AI development until shared safety protocols for such designs were developed, implemented, and audited by independent experts. It says that powerful AI systems should be developed only once. We are confident that their effects will be positive and their risks will be manageable, the letter said. The letter detailed potential risks to society and civilization by human competitive AI systems in the form of economic and political disruptions, and called on developers to work with policymakers on governance and regulatory authorities. It says that co-signatories included Stability AI CEO Ahmed Mostak, researchers at Alphabet own DeepMind, of course, same owners of this and the Googs, as well as AI heavyweights Yeshua Bengio and Stuart Russell. With the Alphabet and these others in there, it kind of makes you wonder, though, right? Why would they not want it? Or is it because they feel it is a threat? Dex, it's of course competitors would say, hey, yeah, you should not go any further with this. But in general, I think people should be calling for oversight and some sort of controls on this. This is getting our entire system is getting out of whack right now.
I think it's not that they don't want it to progress. They want it to progress. They just want a hiatus. And I think they know something's on the horizon. potentially with lawmakers, and that's what they're hoping for. Is if they could pull off a 6-month pause, then maybe they can get some legislation or something passed through that could help curtail any of the runawayness that has been happening with this. Steve Wozniak, one of the co-founders of Apple, also signed onto this, as well as Stability AI and a few other additional heavyweights. Since I think it's like up to 1,100 people now that have signed. So a lot of people that are in the space, a lot of them that are competitors to one another, but they're all basically saying the same thing. Hey, we need a pause. Like, what we have, but we shouldn't be making anything more advanced than where we are today until we get something in place that gives us some sort of guide rails to keep us from running off the track, so to speak.
Yeah, and as far as like how fast it's going, it's only going to get faster. We're going to talk about here in a little bit. They're even talking about how within 8 years we might get to the solution to immortality. This is insanity. And then the first ever case of human being struck down by killer plant fungus. So this does fit into later stories here, and it says that first ever case of human being struck down by a killer plant fungus. Healthy Indian mushroom hunter was left with agonizing abscess in his windpipe. An Indian mushroom hunter has caught a fungal disease deadly to plants in a world first case. The 61-year-old sought help after suffering from flu-like symptoms and difficulty swallowing for 3 months. Baffled doctors carried out scans and showed he had an abscess in his windpipe. Surgeons drained pus and sent samples to the lab, which revealed he had caught Chondrosterum purpureum. Purpureum, I think that's how you say it. The fungus causes silver leaf disease in plants, which is spread by airborne spores and turns plants' leaves into a metallic color before slowly taking their lives. This is, God, imagine that being in your throat. It said that it is thought that he got infected while carrying out research as a plant mycologist, which involves working directly with molds, yeast, and mushrooms. The man, who hasn't been named, had been working with decaying material, mushrooms, and various plant fungi for a long time. So he definitely knows, he knows a couple fun guys. But with that bad dad joke going over real well, we have arrived in the post-antibiotic era. The WHO warns of 2 new drugs for deadly superbugs. It says late last year, one of Dr. Vance Fowler's patients, a man in his 60s who'd returned to North Carolina from visiting his family in Nepal, died of a bacterial infection. He'd been treated at a top U.S. hospital with access to the strongest antibiotics, but the infection, a drug-resistant strain of E. coli, surged on. Antibiotic resistance is a real problem that with little or no warning can affect the lives of any of us at any time. Fowler, an infectious disease specialist at Duke Health, said we don't have enough drugs. Oh yeah, because we need more of them, right? It says health officials have warned the public about antibiotic resistance for decades, and that's become more urgent in the light of the upcoming WHO report, tallying only a handful of new antibiotics in development. Preliminary data from the report released by the WHO this month paint a dire picture. Just 27 new antibiotics for the most threatening infections are in the clinical trial stage of drug development. In contrast, there were more than 1,300 cancer drugs in clinical trials in 2020, according to a report from the trade organization Pharmaceutical Research and Manufacturers of America. Of the antibiotics in trials, the WHO considers only 6 of them innovative enough to overcome antibiotic resistance, and just 2 capable of targeting the most resistant bacteria. Agency officials will present the full report during the European Congress of Clinical Microbiology and Infectious Diseases next month. There's no telling whether this handful of new drugs in clinical trials will work either. Between 2017 and 21, just 1 new antibiotic, Cefidrocol, was approved and could treat the superbugs on WHO's most critical list, including strains of Acinetobacter baumannii, Pseudomonas, and Aeruginosa and Enterobacteriaceae. These pathogens can cause a range of potentially severe infections in the lungs, urinary tract, ears, blood, open wounds, or even in the brain and the spinal cord. So is this some sort of setup for something bigger? We have seen for years, and there was actually quite a scary documentary done that was put out, and it went into the proof that we are getting resistant to antibiotics. This is essentially saying that they're not making as many antibiotics for what is coming out and for the things that are probably being developed, right? What's funny is problem, reaction, solution, right? A lot of people do not trust, and I believe a majority of people do not trust this agency anymore. So people are questioning what the heck is next. Is this telegraphing some sort of move? Many people, don't even talk about the CV anymore, the thing that happened in 2019. But that's only because that's the last one. That's the first one. Something else may come. People talk and debate about the theory of where it came from. Either way, it's most likely that it was made. And that's the freaky part when you think about all of the big picture pieces coming into place. Dex, as far as super resistant, antibiotic resistant, everything, it's kind of freaky to think about that there's like one or two antibiotics for all of these things.
It certainly is. And it kind of goes back to that. It certainly is. And it goes back to that notion of, telling people not to use antibiotics all the time because you build up these resistances or things build up resistances. So yeah, a lot of the stuff that we have doesn't work as well as it used to. I mean, even with the common infections that people get, a lot of times they have to go back and get a stronger antibiotic or get a second round. So and this notion of something jumping from a plant to a human, that's kind of a crazy one too. So between that, and these bugs that are out there that basically are, can skirt by the current regimen of antibiotics we have. It certainly seems like they're painting a picture here of misfortune around the health area.
And it was weird around the same time. It was October, November, and December of this last year. We had all of this stuff going on in China. And they said that crematoriums were overfull, and there were satellite photos of them basically being packed. And this was just right after the last tabletop exercise that they did with the same people that did a tabletop exercise in 2019 in October. And it was kind of freaky because it looked like history was repeating itself. It literally looked like it was repeating itself. And we thought, man, January, February, March, this is going to be nuts. Are they setting us up for the next thing? And then we had the Marburg and all of these other things come out. I don't know if it was going to happen on the exact thing, but people still are not forgetting about this because it is something that is hanging out here and very well could happen again. You have to understand, when this all went down, the amount of control that the government had was absolutely insane. They were able to make rules. I mean, it was almost like they were in a room like, oh, what if we make them hop on one foot and rub their belly? No. Oh, stand 6 feet apart. Yeah, 6 feet. Why not 8 or 9 or 7? You know what I mean? It was just like they were making stuff. Let's make them go one way in the grocery aisles and put arrows on the floor so they can only go one way through to minimize contact. There was all sorts of weird things that did not work. Then they told us that it jumped 50 feet and it flew and it took roller coasters right into your mouth. It was all sorts of nuts. Could that happen again? Very well, yes, it could. And that is what we were watching out for. Most people, if you prepped for normal stuff, if you prepped for major disasters, you're going to be prepped for things like this too. That's why we preach, get prepped, get prepared, and prepare for the worst and expect the best. Hope for the best, but prepare for the worst. Because if this happens, it will be a very similar kind of list of things you'll need as if a earthquake or a tornado or something else hit. You should have extra food, water, all sorts of things in case we have a run on the grocery stores like we did last time. And this is a little bit farther out because I think that there will be more signs. If this is coming, it's going to be very clear. There will be a lot of media pushing it, and all of a sudden it would come out of nowhere. So make sure to prepare before there's any inkling of that, because guess what? Once there is an inkling, and even though you think you follow things really closely, so does everybody else. And once mainstream media starts covering it, everybody's going to go run, grab TP and all of the other stupid things that people think will save their lives, right? But this is kind of freaky because we all debate on what's true, what's not, what's disinfo, what's distraction. This is something that existed no matter what evil is out there. Antibiotic resistant things, this is something that was coming. This is something that is a real thing, and who knows? It might be worse because it's being made to be worse. Who knows? But it is a thing. I don't ever take antibiotics unless I absolutely have to, and I sat through many sicknesses without doing it, and even several things. I wouldn't recommend it for everybody, but that's all up to you. That is because I worry about being resistant to the antibiotics. And then humans will achieve immortality in 8 years, says former Google engineer. I thought this was so weird when I first saw it because it's like, okay, why him, right? Well, who knows what that company knows? They are one of the most powerful companies in the world. It says that humans will achieve immortality in 8 years, says former Google engineer who has predicted the future with 86% accuracy, which I'm sorry, that isn't the very best percentage there. But I wonder what is his other predictions, right? It says a former engineer who's made a stark realization that humans will achieve immortality in 8 years, and 86% of his 147 predictions have been correct. I just wonder if his predictions are things like, we're going to have a new virus in the next 10 years, or, birds will get sick in the next 5 years. Things like that. I wonder what all of his 147 predictions were, and most of us could be like, well, that's common sense. They're going to come out with a car that is electric. Yeah, who knows? Ray Kurzweil spoke with the YouTube channel Adagio discussing the expansion in genetics, nanotechnology, and robotics, which he believes will lead to an age-reversing nanobots. These tiny robots will repair damaged cells and tissues that deteriorate as the body ages and makes us immune to diseases like cancer. It says the predictions that such a feat is achievable by 2030 have been met with excitement and skepticism, as curing all deadly diseases seems far out of reach. One thing I wonder, though, is, and I'm trying to think of the movie. What was the movie? Do you guys know the movie with Matt Damon? Dex, do you remember the name of the movie with Matt Damon where he was on the ring? The rich
Elysium.
Elysium, that's right. Elysium is where they lived on this floating kind of ring up in the sky, and all of the rich people lived in this space city up in the sky, and they had access to cancer curing, everything. They were basically immortal. They had cures for everything. But if you were poor, you would basically work and slave away down on Earth until you perished. And you would essentially make the things and manufacture the things that they use up there. Kind of a freaky plot, but it's starting to look like we might be headed that way. Kurzweil was hired by the Googs in 2012 to work on new projects involving machine learning and language processing, but he was making predictions in technological advances long before. In 1990, he predicted the world's best chess player would lose to a computer by 2000, and it happened in 1997 with Deep Blue beat Garry Kasparov. Kurzweil made another startling prediction in 1999. He said by 2023, a 1000 laptop would have a human brain's computing power and storage capacity, which is pretty crazy to think of, but again, we're there. Now, the former Google engineer believes technology is set to become so powerful it will help humans live forever in what is known as the singularity. Singularity is a theoretical point when artificial intelligence surpasses human intelligence and changes the path of evolution. You know what people are afraid of is that they change our path of evolution to devolution, or basically get rid of us. Like we are, like they try to make a highway and there's an anthill in the way. If we were humans, we don't move the anthill, we just pave right over it. It's not like we mean to take the lives of the ants. We're just building, we're doing our thing, we're creating, right? But of course, not important to us, we just pave right over. That's the thing that I am afraid of with AI. And now that they have everything connected through these same systems, if a human can hack it, what is stopping an AI that believes that humans are bad, they're irresponsible, they're dirty, they're, hurting the planet, especially if they're basing their opinions on information that we have given them. Think about all of the stuff going out right now saying how much humans are affecting everything around us. They would read that and go, okay, well, the common denominator is humans are the problem. It's been the plot of sci-fi films forever. It's becoming real life, and that's what freaks everybody out. I think being evil is just a choice by the person, says Jamie Turnage. DWD David's Way. I think it's kind of like giving in to what's already there. There's temptation to be evil. It's basically a lack of will. It's easy to be evil. It's hard to be good. It's very hard to be good. It's just, it's hard to be nice when people are jerks. Vault Music, soon they will have a tax for extended life living. Watch Castor Troy. That's a insane point. Well, I bet you they would. If you're over 100, you have to pay a life tax because you're taking up space. God said, pick up that sword, though. No way. Thank you. Schaefer Girl, word. Marf, preach it. Celtic Warrior, stealth mode. Howdy. Twisted Luck Truth. Hey, well, define good. Twisted Luck, by the way, great channel. Go check them out. Super Sticker. Thank you for the Super Sticker, Carol. Appreciate that. Thank you. You're my number one, too. It's easy for me to be good, Crystal Dawn says. Duke P. Ilea. I hope you're feeling better as well. Richie, god of Saturn, that's in charge at the moment. That's so weird. I just watched a documentary about the whole Saturn thing. Oh, it was on the Anonymous Official channel. And it was that guy from a few decades ago talking about all of the symbolism. Wages World is in the house. If you guys haven't checked out his channel, make sure to go do so. He does an awesome job, and he was just part of a presentation, or it was a whole big presentation that was put together with a bunch of creators with Paul Begley's group. It's in our DNA to fear death. Anthony Els, Love Pugs, What is Happening, and Matt Francis. Dex, go ahead.
So imagine this: if they had the technology, even in the next 8 years, or if they had it 8 years ago, and they were capable of making humans last 500 years. Let's not go to being immortal. Let's just say it's 500 years. The problems that would pose are, I don't even know how to fathom that. If tomorrow people could start, let's just say there was a magic pill and you could live to be 500 years old. And for starters, you couldn't give it to everybody. And if you did, the rate at which the population is growing, but not, ending, would just be, it would be a massive problem. Like I don't know how they would even, how you could even deal with that. It would be almost catastrophic, I think, for it to happen that quickly. It's almost like one of those things that has to evolve over time for it to settle in and be a norm. For us to go from, our life expectancy used to be 20 and 30 and 40 and 50 and 60 and 70. It's taken, long time for it to slowly get longer and longer, for it to go to something like, an astronomical number like 500 years or more, or in this case, this guy's saying immortal. I don't know how everything would work. I mean, that would change the economics. It would change everything. Everything would be a mess.
It would be, and look at without this, with people perishing, with new viruses all the time, with all these new things that come and get us, with natural disasters. I really think it's creepy when you think of the comments by Mr. Yilly Bates when he talked about the if they do a really good job with new, that they would be able to bring the pop down by 10 to 15%. Look at this. This is insanity. Just in 1960, we were at 3 billion people. And before that, it was about here. It went up 1 billion in 30 years. And then in another 30 years, it went up a whole 3 billion. This one, in 30 years, it went up 1 billion. Then it tripled. Then, of course, you have 2048. They are saying that it would be 2048 before we have 9 billion. That math doesn't make sense. If we gained 3 billion from 1960 to 1999, which is 40 years, then we would most likely hit that like now or very soon, and it's exponential. And how, if we came up with all of these ways to live longer, to cure things, that's why people think that cancers and things like this, that some of this is, happening from the things we put into our body or eat or whatever, right? Think about it. If you were at the very, very top or you were making decisions, you might have to make hard decisions, or at least you're being told to make hard decisions because, this is bad. Nobody wants to see the face that's affected, but they're okay with it happening. See what I'm saying? Like if this was exponential, if they saw in 1960 to 1999, it went up to 3 billion, and it's gone up exponentially in 1927 to 60, it was 1 billion. They go, this is just going to keep going, and boom, 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 and it can just exponentially go out of control. What's weird to me is just in my lifetime, there's all of these new things that affect humans. At the same time, we're the most technologically advanced we've ever been. We have more, treatments and more things for more things, and somehow everybody is still perishing, and perishing a lot. Hundreds of thousands, millions dying from different things, and it's like, it seems to me like some of this is guided. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments down below. 9 billion in 2050, you would think it would go up exponentially, especially if people are having, and then they do things like China limiting people to 1 child and things like that. Now they're saying to have more kids in China. What's his face? Elon Musk says that everybody should have 6 kids, that people need to have more children because we are actually going to hit a spot where, and what is he trying to tell us by saying that? He says that we will have we could be extinct if we don't produce, that our best chance of surviving the future is to have more children. That's freaky to me. He is an end of the worlder too. All right, and then before we move on to Francis, hospitalized, I do want to remind you guys, make sure to go over and check out, if you want to get a backup power supply, Energy has the best solar generators out there, and they are expandable. Again, there's a few competitors that do a similar thing, but these are most definitely the best. There's no external cords. You don't have to double the footprint to end up adding in more batteries. These are modular, which means you can actually add in sort of a Lego brick, if you will, if you could think of that, and it can actually change the overall structure and performance of the unit. For instance, you can add one that triples the input from 4 solar panels to 12. Which again then puts it ahead of all of these others. They have all of these levels. If you go to the reviews and they go, this one's here and it only takes 4. You add in a unit, you can add 12, which then puts it way ahead of everybody else. So again, think of that. This can also be modded to be a UPS. They now have a UPS rapid charger that can change it into an uninterrupted power supply, meaning essentially you can keep it plugged in, keep your fridge plugged into it, and then when the power goes off, it will instantly switch over to it. To be able to get power from the sun is really, really amazing. And again, you don't have to spend $5 a gallon for gas. They're silent, which means nobody is going to know that you have one. In an SHTF situation, that is incredibly important. I still recommend, if you have the ability, get yourself a gas generator too. You should try to get both if you can. But if you were to get one, I would say get solar first because it's unlimited power. And as long as you have solar panels, you have power. Not to mention, you can store that, take it with you. You can take these with you to your job site, work with some drills or a saw. You can take it camping and power a TV out in the middle of the woods. Do whatever you want with it. Go over to marfooglenews.com/energy and then make sure to use the code Marfoogle. You will actually save not only our special discount, but theirs as well. Remember that sale where you're going to get our special discount stacked for the first time ever? That only goes, I believe, until tomorrow or the next day. Dex, is there a 31st in this month?
Yes, to the 31st.
Okay.
2 days.
Yep. So you have 2 days if you want to get it. You definitely, if you want something right now, I would go for the Kodiak X2. It's a great unit, has a huge built-in battery, and it can be dual link. So later, if you want to get a second one, you can double the output and double the capacity. As far as the Flex 1500, that one can be expanded up to 96 batteries. That one you can buy a battery once a year and build up as big as you want, or get it all at once. It's up to you. Again, marfooglenews.com/energy. It helps us out. We're independent. We don't have a multi-channel network. We don't have anybody backing us up. We have you guys. So thank you, and we appreciate it. Again, you get something for cheaper and something that can save your life, and you're helping independent news at the same time. And then, Dex, can you talk about the Pope Francis, since you're better now, and now I'm sick?
Yeah. So apparently he's been hospitalized. So and right during the busy season, so to speak. So interesting fact, he's never had CV. He made it all the way through without getting it. He doesn't have it now, they're saying, but he does have a lung infection, and they brought him in. He was having difficulty breathing, and now they've admitted him, and he's going to be in the hospital for several days minimum for them to treat it. We'll have to see what comes of it, if it's just treated and he's released, or if anything changes. The guy is up there in age, and he also has I think half a lung, or at least part of one of his lungs was removed. So he's actually deficient already. He's been that way for a long time. I think when he was a young man, they said he had a respiratory infection, and they had to remove part of one of his lungs. So again, busy season. This is, he's got a whole lot of things that were on the table, like Palm Sunday and Holy Week observances, and then of course, Easter coming up really soon. So not a good time for him to be down, but that's the current state of affairs.
Well, we'll follow it and we'll see where it goes. It was very strange. I'm still curious about what is going on with the money in the church. The Pope actually requested that all of the churches return the money back to the Holy Church. That was so weird, and nobody talks about it still. But right before all of this bank stuff happened, right before all sorts of weird things went down, he ordered all of the holy churches to return all of the money back to a central holy bank. Why? That's what I wonder. I wonder what the heck is going on there. Thank you, LOD Will. I appreciate the back-to-back super chats. Feathers and Flowers. Thank you for the super sticker. Justin True says, fungi dad joke, bro. Fungi dad joke, bro? LOL, that's why we love you. Well, thank you, Justin True. If you guys haven't checked out Justin True, make sure to go check out his channel. He's over on the marfooglenews.com/friends, along with Joseph Newhouse. Hey, I made an elemental charm. If anyone wants to see the video, thanks for doing the thing. Well, thank you, Joseph, and appreciate you. Joseph is also on the friends page. Carol, thank you. I appreciate you. Thank you for the super sticker. Overcame bipolar with Jesus. Did you change that from overcome to overcame? Bipolar with Jesus, thank you for your support. He has a channel as well. You should go check him out. He dealt with bipolar disorder, and it's interesting to see how he did it. Go over to his channel. Schaefer Girl, thank you so much for the super sticker as well. Thank you, everybody, for supporting our channel. I appreciate you. But more importantly, I always forget to ask, if you guys can, make sure to share this with a friend or a family member. Share our show. Bring them to the live chat. Say, hey, there's a lot of great people here. And remember to get to know the people next to you. There's a lot of really great like minds here. They don't have to be exactly alike, but that's the whole fun of it. We can have good conversations and have a peaceful place where we don't put down each other for our crazy views. And by God, most of them aren't crazy anymore. And then China threatens retaliation if the U.S. House Speaker meets Taiwan president. It's that China threatened to retaliate on Wednesday if U.S. House Speaker Kevin McCarthy meets Taiwan President Tsai Ing-wen during her planned transit to the United States next month, saying any such move would be a provocation. China, which claims democratically ruled Taiwan as its own territory, has repeatedly warned the U.S. officials not to meet Tsai, viewing it as support for the island's desire to be seen as a separate country. China staged war games around Taiwan last August when then House Speaker Nancy Pelosi visited Taipei, and Taiwan's armed forces have said that they have been keeping watch for any Chinese moves when Tsai is abroad. Tsai is due to depart on Wednesday for a trip to Guatemala and Belize that will see her transit through New York and Los Angeles. While not officially confirmed, she is expected to meet McCarthy while in California at the end of her trip. Zhu Fanglian, spokesperson of China's Taiwan Affairs Office, told reporters in Beijing that Tsai's, quote, transits of the United States were not just her waiting at the airport or hotel, but for her to meet U.S. officials and lawmakers. If she has contact with U.S. House Speaker McCarthy, it will be another provocation that seriously violates the One China principle, harms China's sovereignty and territorial integrity, and destroys peace and stability in the Taiwan Strait. Everything that they do basically says we already control Taiwan. That's how they want us to act, as if Taiwan is part of China. That's the whole point of the whole One China, that Hong Kong, that Taiwan, everything is part of China. And they expect us to act like it is. This may be used as an excuse to do, obviously the last time that Nancy Pelosi met with Tsai Ing-wen, they did this massive, massive drill where they surrounded the island with at least 6 different attack carrier groups and all sorts of crazy destroyers, battleships, everything else. But they have been drilling nonstop to take over Taiwan. They've even created a mock capital there that has a building that is made to the same blueprints, and they've been practicing taking it. On top of that, they've been practicing attacking our ships. In fact, they've made replicas of our ships in the desert, which they have used for practice. It's pretty clear here what they plan is in the future, unless something changes drastically. And if anything changes drastically that takes us out of a war with China, then we're even in more trouble. That would mean that they pull enough strings where they don't have to do that and they take it voluntarily. There's a lot of strange things that connect with it. They're not even really strange. They're just really, really big things that are going on right now, including we just covered the other night how they say that we would be 5 years at least behind if China took the chip factory, the TSMC, the main manufacturer there in Taiwan, and all of the other ones that are there. If they took that over and controlled it, that they would essentially control the world. They would control the future, at least for the next 5 years, or at very least 2. They would control the economy because those chips are so important to everything electronic. Everything in our world now is high tech. So for them to do that, and if we don't have the ability to manufacture them from scratch here, we can design them here, but we can't manufacture them not like they can there, that we would basically be begging China for things, or we just wouldn't have them, which would stop up a lot of different areas of manufacturing. It would be horrendous. We are building manufacturing factories, and that's what they're doing now, but we're still behind. So tell me, if in 5 years from now, or even in 3 years from now, when we have our own ability to make these things, do you think that they're going to wait until then to take Taiwan? Or do you think that they're going to take them even if they can get 6 months or even a month where they're completely in charge of the world, or they hold everybody to where everybody's in debt to China, or where they're depending on China or these chips? When would they do it? Even if we destroy that factory, then that just basically screws the whole world. It screws everybody. Even if we destroy it, we're still going to be heading into a place where it's not going to be fun. Dex, have you thought about that? Like, even if they destroyed, even if they take the island, why would they wait? Especially since they've done all of the major war games. The currently serving Navy that they have practiced with are up on the war games. Are they going to wait until it's a completely different set of soldiers, until 2027 when we have the ability to manufacture the chips ourselves? Doesn't make sense.
Well, I think they're definitely looking for a potential, any type of political angle that they may be able to get from this. And if they don't see that happening in the next year, or in the short term, really short term, then yeah, they're gonna shift. And I say that because when you look at how they took Hong Kong, it was all political. It was like, planting people in till they basically got what they needed out of the leadership, and then it was done without significant conflict. There was plenty of protests, but it wasn't the same as two militaries going head to head. The other thing, keep in mind, when Nancy made the visit, that started the crossing of the meridian, as they call it, or that halfway point that they never really crossed before. And after that, they started normalizing it. So if the visit happens this go round with the new House Speaker, then it will be interesting to see if they create something different, like if they fly over or do something that's more provocative towards Taiwan, and then they start to normalize that.
Basically, push the boundaries even further. If she's visiting here, you got to guarantee that she's secretly going to be meeting with somebody. But you know that China is going to have spies that are following them around, and they'll know it. So we'll see what happens. We'll follow it. Even stranger, and as you guys know, they've made now their own space station up there. We just talked about how they say that they have completely weaponized space. That what was it? The India air chief, the chief of air staff, basically the person in charge of their air force, I think, basically, or chief of staff, said that in the near future there will be a war in space, and it will be a war in space, sea, land. It will affect everything, cyber, everything. And now China is discovering strange glass beads on the moon that may contain billions of tons of water. Dex, do you want to go over this? This is wild.
So they brought stuff back from I think it was the Chang'e 5 mission back in 2020. And part of what they brought back were these tiny little, look like glass balls, I guess, at least from the picture that they're showing. And through that, they've determined that there's potentially water, or that there is water inside them, and that these are created by the impact from meteorites. When they smash into the moon, there's tens to hundreds of thousands of miles per hour blasting chunks of lunar crust into the air. Inside the airborne plumes, the silicate material heatens to a molten temperature. Force of the impact combine to form the tiny glass beads that are sprinkled all over the landscape, as they described it. So since the soil does contain oxygen, it means that the beads do too. And when struck with ionized hydrogen atoms from solar wind, the oxygen in the molten spheres react to form water. So, and then it's sucked inside the silicate capsule. So basically what they're saying is they could mine this and turn it into water on the moon. So that's a very interesting discovery. I don't know what kind of process, other than what I just described, like what it literally means, if it's reasonable or just, a cool scientific, theory. But if it's reasonable with equipment to actually get up there, put it up there, and then start creating water on the moon, that would be pretty significant.
Indeed, it would. And the thing is, they have that far side of the moon thing going. It reminds me, it's why I titled this Iron Sky. I don't know if any of you have seen that horrible B movie. It was definitely entertaining in a way, but with the NAZIs on the moon, and they end up having a base on the far side of the moon. And after WW2, they didn't actually go away. They just flew to the moon and hid until they came back and did war. It's a horrible movie, very entertaining. But I wonder what the heck they are doing up there. Why are all of these different stories happening? All of these, airspace being shut down, kind of events happening, and they say it's most likely not UFOs, that it's probably China, right? So what the heck is actually going on? I would love to hear your theories on this, and I love to read your comments on as far as, what do you think is actually happening with China and the moon? And it doesn't have to be exactly related to the glass beads and the water. They've now told us that there's oxygen on the moon, which they said it was in our atmosphere. Look that up. It was crazy, and people were pissed off, actually. They were saying, oh, they've lied to us their whole lives. They say that that the moon is in our atmosphere, well into our atmosphere, not our first one, but apparently one of the layers out in the geocorona or whatever it is. And they are now saying that there's possibly water. What does this mean for the future when they say that they're trying to get to the moon, set up some sort of side launch base that launches us to Mars eventually? I mean, think about what is being made right now. SpaceX is now, they are still going forward with this thing, saying that everybody is going to be going to Mars at some point, that 1 million people are going to be on Mars by 2030. All sorts of crazy, crazy goals. Do you think that that's going to happen? What do you think that China was doing when they went to the far side of the moon? What do you think they're doing with these glass beads here? What is going on with this? Do you have a theory that's stranger than what mainstream puts? I would love to hear it. And thank you, Schaefer Girl. I appreciate that. And Steve McQueen, thank you. And Company 328 over on DLive. Hello, Adam, Dex, and Mods. Foogle family. Hey, how are you doing, Company 328? Subway, thank you for following over on DLive. Laura Griffith, Beer Juice, Vault Music. I'm closer to some Foogle fam more than my own fam. That's awesome, Vault. I'm glad to hear it. Jacktronics, Skyhouse, Defy Tyrant 650, thank you. Leo X White, thank you for the lemons over there. Beer Juice, where is the one they call Scoobs? I don't know. Scooby-Doo right? Yeah, I don't see. Maybe they're doing something. And then the amazing Drop, thank you for the lemons. You actually broke the ice over there. Thank you. And much appreciated. Along with Laura Griffith again. Thank you. All right, and Russia stops sharing missile test info with the U.S. and opens drills. So we already talked about how they were talking about this. This is kind of an update. Dex, I'm going to go get some water. Do you want to cover this? And I
certainly. So this is the flip side. So yesterday we said the U.S. was going to stop sharing data. Well, today Russia has come out and said that they are no longer going to inform us about any tests. So this is kind of a big deal. So whenever they do test launches, we've always informed the other one about it. Like, hey, we're going to test launch this, so don't freak out and think that we're actually coming after you with our arsenals. Well, they're saying that that's now going away. They're not going to do it anymore. They're just going to test whenever they feel like it, and we won't know. And it's up to us to decide if we think it's a legitimate attack versus a test. And that's kind of a scary position to put things in. That's what they're taking from this. They being Vlad, that's their position. As this New START treaty has been basically dissolved between the two countries. At the same time, they're also going to start some new drills. They announced that they're doing some specific drills that actually began Wednesday with the Yars mobile missile launchers, and they're going to maneuver those across 3 regions from Siberia. So the defense minister said that the movements will involve measures to conceal the deployment from foreign satellites and other intelligent assets, the ministry said. So I guess in that regard, they're actually telling us what they're doing, but they're really telling the public what they're doing. They didn't say how long the drills were going to last or if they were actually practicing any launches during that. So there actually could be launches that come from that. They're not going to announce it anymore. They're not going to tell us. So this is all the changes that are going in. So we could be at a point where we could see them test launch, or they could see them launch numerous missiles, and we don't have a clue if it's a test or if it's the real deal. And we'll have to have our own intelligence around that to try to figure that out, because they're not going to give us the benefit of knowing.
So imagine if there's a mistake made, if they end up launching a hypersonic and it's going towards the ocean, or that's going towards the Sea of Japan, but Japan sees it, and now Japan can't call the U.S. or can't get information that they usually connect with and say, oh, this is heading towards us. To my knowledge, something like the last launch that happened, Japan usually goes to the open system that they have with the U.S. and sees this information as soon as the U.S. gets it. I'm sure Japan is going to probably pop in and say, well, we need to know about stuff. That's at least from my knowledge. They actually use the open source thing that they have in their deals with the U.S. and with other countries in NATO that are able to see that information kind of play out. That's freaky. Or if there's even something headed towards us, but it's actually headed towards the ocean or towards a test pad or something. Maybe it's even a plane, or a hypersonic vehicle, but they don't know what it is. It's more so to scare both sides. When the U.S. said that a lot of experts said that it was to kind of scare them into compliance. Instead, they are doing the same thing. And they have a massive nuclear capability. Everybody in our community is so separated on what's happening. Everybody thinks, oh, it's a distraction. I mean, I can't tell you. Everything is a distraction now, according to every other person. I would say, look at all of this, take 1% of it and just put it into the back of your head. Don't be afraid by it. Prepare for the worst and hope for the best. That is the best policy here. Don't ride the roller coaster. Don't go super excited and freaked out and sell your house and live in a camper, unless you are, which is totally cool. I did too at one point. And don't go super complacent and be like, nothing's happening. It's all fine. It's not. It's not fine. Stop thinking that. Nothing is fine right now. After CV, people should understand that things are going in a really bad direction. And stop thinking of this stuff as fear-mongering and start thinking of it as, hey, this is what's going on. And unfortunately, the truth is, no matter who is doing it, if it's orchestrated or not, it's going to look and feel real to all of the people it's going to affect. I think that they want a whole lot less of us here on Earth, and there's specific ones of us that they really don't want here. But that's just my thoughts. What's yours? Let me know in the comments down below or in the chat. Speaking of chat, we might all end up in tents, Truth Iris. One thing that is definite, and that Elon's Cafe Violet Feely, I think I read that right. Everyone should look up parallactic angle, in my opinion. Take cash out and what? Well, part of that is they want to scare you into taking your stuff out and putting it into the main banks. Carol, thank you. Other Smith, I don't care what they want. Mir 504, Upside Down World. It's been upside down for a long time. I saw a great video. Surprisingly, it was a great guest on Timcast, where Timcast had this guy on that was talking about how he believes it's end times. Now, I do believe we're in end times. As you guys know, there's a stigma. If you believe we're in end times, you are that person with the cardboard sign on the corner, and that you are nuts. The main argument that you hear when you say it's end times, oh, well, they've thought it was end times forever as long as it goes back. They thought it was end times going back to the beginning of times, right? That's always the argument. But the argument he made is that, yeah, you could say that 10, 30 years ago, but 10, 30 years ago, 50 years ago, 100 years ago, there was not the specific patents, the specific things that are being put in place that are literally the mark. That you won't be able to buy and sell things without the mark and things like this. These things are being made. Signs in the heavens, signs in the sun, the star, and the moon. As far as the plagues, the viruses, and all this, even if it is manufactured, maybe that's part of the prophecy. All of this stuff is happening. And if you say that, then people instantly can write you off as crazy or nuts. I don't think people are very open-minded, especially people that are just very straightforward. Oh, that's not it. I'm reasonable. I look at the logical information. Blah, blah. There's more to it. And I'm sure most of you have experienced in your lifetime something that you just cannot explain, and that feel like there's something greater here and something bigger is going on. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments down below. We don't have to think exactly alike. Before we move on, I do want to warn you and let you know, obviously EMP is a huge, huge threat to the United States, but it's also a threat to other places in the world right now because it is one of the most likely out of all of the scenarios that could happen. EMP is an attack that a country could do, any of one of our adversaries, including North Korea, Iran, China, Russia, that they could do that we cannot just respond with a nuke and take lives, because it doesn't directly take lives. It takes our grid down, which they say 90% of us would perish. And it's not because we would be taking each other out. It'd be because our infrastructure breaks down. We won't have water. Potable water is one of the main reasons 90% of us would perish, because we wouldn't have the infrastructure to keep it going. So an EMP is very, very much the most likely and the least crazy out of all of the things out there. And even if no one attacks us with an EMP, we have the solar events that have happened in the past and that will always happen. It is a matter of when, not if, when a CME or a Carrington level event hits Earth. And if it hits hard enough, if we have a Carrington level event hit, it could knock down our grid for anywhere from 8 months to 2 years. Think of the insanity that would unfurl if we had no power. This is one of the least crazy things out there because it is not only a real possibility, it will happen. And it's just a matter if we have caught up technology by the point it happens. The last time it happened, we had telegraphs, was like the most advanced thing we had. And the telegraph wires caught fire, and even the headsets caught fire for the telegraph operators. It was an insane event. There was auroras all over the world. I mean, it was just nuts. But that was before we basically had our entire infrastructure on sensitive electronics. And those telegraph wires were 10 times as strong as what we have now. So go to marfooglenews.com/EMP. The EMP shield can protect you, and it can protect your vehicles, so your vehicle can go wherever you need to go to bug out or get home to bug in. If you work far from work, if you live far from work, this is a great thing to have. It is also a veteran-owned company. It is a made in America product down to the screws, and it is the same company that is helping outfit DHS, DOD, and agencies like DEMSO. In fact, they're on the DEMSO team helping protect the Texas grid. So go to marfooglenews.com/EMP. You will get a $50 off discount with our code, and you will help our channel at the same time. We're on our own here, along with the help of the Foogle fam, so thank you guys. I appreciate it. And then Russia says it has successfully rerouted all of the oil it would have sold to the West to friendly nations. I actually believe this because places like India, in the same month time span, and this was just an example that was very public, in the same time span, the year before the invasion and the year after, they bought 6 times the amount of oil that they would have the year prior. So they basically made up for all of the oil that some other smaller place that probably is boycotting them would have purchased. So it says that apparently Russia says it has successfully rerouted all of the oil it would have sold to the West to friendly countries, claiming it has overcome the trade restrictions imposed on its top export, which many people predicted that basically the sanctions did absolutely nothing to the oil part of their pocket, if this is true. Dex, if this is true and they completely redirected the entire volume of exports, then what the heck? Basically just screwed people in the pocket for nothing.
Well, yeah, the sanctions obviously didn't work. I don't know how much of this is true versus how much of it is just their ganda, but we've often said that they were dumping the oil into G's country, into India and other locations that would buy it, obviously at a discount too. But still, they were making, and with the prices had gone up, even with a discount, they were still making what they were making. So it does make sense. It's logical to think that they were able to um, successfully sell off all of that and skirt the sanctions. So if that's the case, yeah, what good did it do? A lot of people were cold, a lot of high expensive bills in Europe and here in the U.S. More so in Europe, but definitely here in the U.S. as well during this time period because they tell us because of these sanctions.
It's, as the and their response to everything is it was sanctions. Many people think that China is hoarding like they are because if they take Taiwan, there will be sanctions, right? I don't know if sanctions were the right thing. Kind of reminds me of Star Trek Strange New Worlds episode 10, where the Romulans basically see if they tested our weakness and seen if we were strong enough, and we didn't do the right thing. We should have just got physical with them or something. Do you guys think that instead of sanctions, we should have sent boots over there? Let me know. Let me know in the comments down below. I'm showing you this. This does matter. I just wanted to point out this was Alish. She is a mod, but she's been very, very ill, and she could actually use prayers. If you guys can, pray for Alish. Elish, very, very funny woman. She's one of my favorite people, and unfortunately, she hasn't been able to come very often. But she took this in Michigan. This is Michigan. Somebody in the chat just spoke, said that they saw auroras in Arizona. We're in solar cycle 25. It's supposed to only get crazier. And this isn't me saying it, but many experts believe we could have a Carrington level event, that they happen in intervals. And some believe that it will happen in the next couple years. It might even happen at the peak of this solar cycle 25, in 2024 and into 2025. Some even say that explains why all of these elites are building bunkers or trying to get off Earth, whatever they're trying to do. But look at this. This is in Michigan. Just so you know, it's not usual to see auroras in Michigan or in Arizona. This is absolutely beautiful, but at the same time, it makes you wonder, right? That was Elish, and that was put together in a video. Lisa R. Hall actually made a edited video that she put out on her channel, and Wages was really kind enough to put it on his channel as well. That it's all of the photos she took just looking up. It's quite insane. And by the way, that's not doctored in any way. There's no filters. If you know Elish, I don't believe she has any editors of any kind on her phone. That's just straight up an iPhone taking a photo of what's outside. So that's nuts. Dex, did you see these photos? I don't know if I talked to you about that.
No, but they're incredible. The ones I'm looking at.
Yeah. And then the tweet before that, I did a video that Lisa did putting together all of her other photos. That one's really good. Check that out over on Twitter. And make sure to go subscribe to Lisa R. Hall as well. Very cool. And then HIMARS strike deep behind enemy lines fuels talk of UKR counter-offensive. Dex, if you could, cover this one.
So we talked last night about the glide boomers one was taken down, they claimed. And these were allowing them to reach pretty far. And the HIMARS is also one of those that allows UKR to reach pretty far. And by reaching far, we're talking about going across the border deeper into Vlad's country. And in this case, they did take out knocked out power supplies and other things in Melitopol. And that was one of the areas that was captured. But the point being is if UKR is about to go on the offensive, then the reactions or the activities you're going to see are should be less about protecting against an invasion, which is what they've been doing, and more about reaching across and doing damage into Crimea, into Vlad's country. Not that UKR has ambitions to claim anything in Vlad's country outside of Crimea, which they want to. I don't know if they'll achieve it, but they've stated that's one of their goals. So if they moved from this defensive position and trying to protect their country into an offensive position, things like the HIMARS, things like the Glide GLDBMs, or whatever we talked about last night, the Glide missile system that it launches on a rocket, but then it glides the rest of the way in, gives it that longer range. All of those are going to come into play. And by the way, the HIMARS is also the one we talked about that UKR says they don't like to use willy-nilly. They don't fire it unless the US gives them a target and tells them where to point it. I don't know why they admitted that, but they did. They said, yeah, we don't want to waste our munitions, but you tell us where to point it, and when you do, we'll take care of it. So that's in a I'm paraphrasing, but that's pretty much what they said. So again, if this is starting to ramp up, then this could be a sign of an offensive. That's what they're trying to suggest. Of course, this is news coming out of UKR, so take it all with a grain of salt too, because it's going to be cited. Everything is cited when it comes out from two adversaries talking about their greatness in their conflicts.
Yeah, an offensive most people do not support. Charles Cox says, have you noticed any of the live shows looping? No, I have not. Charles Cox says, have you noticed all of the live shows looping? No, I have not. Charles Cox says, have you noticed all of the live shows looping? No, I have not. Not. And a few people said, great picture to Alicia's photos. Let's see her. And by the way, this is the funniest back and forth on DLive. They're doing a diamond war where they do, somebody donates a diamond with this. It says, caca. Outlaw Juicy Wells, Gen X and Woke Counterculture Part 2. Scooby-Doo Right says, appreciate you. Beer Juice says, oh no, you didn't. Scooby-Doo Right says, oh yes, you did. And then Beer Juice says, I guess you did. Scooby-Doo says, I did. Yeah, but did you mean it? No, you. No, you. Leave me no choice. Ooh, big words. I'm so scared. Beer Juice says, you complete me. And Scooby-Doo Right says, well, I can't argue with that, Beer. I am speechless. Could be heartburn. And then Scooby-Doo Right says, get your cat Coolio out of my driveway, Beer Juice. Awesome show, Adam. I'm glad I read that out loud. Thank you, guys. And thank you for the Diamond War. That made my day. Thank you. And then Bulgaria can provide UKR with ammunition that can turn the tide of war, ex-defense minister. So we already talked about the uranium depleted, or the depleted uranium ammunition, which, what was his name? Redacted. He was right. I looked into some of the videos on that, and it's pretty horrible. So the depleted uranium shells can do horrid things, and they have done it because they've used it before. And some of the places they've used it has affected the local people there horrifically. So I do see why people are talking about how bad it is to use them. But it says Bulgaria will transfer old ammunition worth nearly $175 million or $190 million to state-owned military plant VMZ, who will forward them to UKR through intermediaries. It says that Bulgaria will replace the shipment with newer ammunition. It says this is the largest rearmament of the Bulgarian land forces in recent history. That's a huge amount of ammunition, hundreds of thousands. There is a huge increase in the price of ammunition, and the VMZ will sell this ammunition through intermediaries to UKR. This is an amount of ammunition that can turn the tide of a war in some directions on the UKR front. Euractiv quoted, Bulgaria possesses old Soviet-era ammunition on the UKR armed forces that they need for their tanks, howitzers, anti-tank grenades, multiple rocket launchers, and AK-47 assault rifles. It says, despite Sofia's official claims, Bulgaria has provided arms to UKR worth billions of dollars over the past 2 years. And it says Bulgarian Defense Minister Dimitar Stoyanov said on March 27th that the VMC plan is needed to renew Bulgaria's military stocks. Bulgarian President Ruman Radev said that Sofia sells weapons and ammunition to European countries on the condition of not transferring them to UKR. His claims contradict the parliament's December 2022 decision to provide Kiev with direct military aid. Radev dissolved the parliament in early February 2023 and ordered the government to suspend supply until the elections are held. Bulgaria will have a snap on April 2nd. So you know there's something shady going on there with who they're picking for their person too. This has happened on a global level, and people still don't believe that there is a overall plan to get everybody under one umbrella. I don't get it. But this ammunition is a ton of ammo, and it's all going to go into burn and probably last 4 hours, right? Until whoever's carrying it perishes on the battlefield. Says Bulgaria covered up to 1/3 of UKR's army needs, as well as up to 40% of tanks, cars, and diesel fuel supply for the military from April to August of 2022, German news site Welt reported. Dex, them sending this much in, this keeps it going for sure.
Well, it does, and it certainly makes money for Bulgaria and the middlemen that they'll transfer the equipment through. So it's not a donation by any means. And yeah. I'm sure UKR's not got the money to pay for it, so somebody's going to send some money over for them to pay for it all.
Yeah, the intermediaries, right? Basically just going to filter them through other people, right? And Putin has made so many nuclear threats since he invaded UKR that people are increasingly shrugging them off. I agree with this, and this is a point that many of myself and my peers have made. I'm sure you guys have made them, and even told family, like, you might want to just not be too complacent here. It said that Russian President Vladimir Putin has made a variety of nuclear threats since he launched his invasion of UKR, and this is just Putin, right? Medvedev has he's done one probably daily, prompting condemn. And I think that adds into it, by the way, the fact that Medvedev or Putin or somebody else in the Russian military or officials, they've been making so many of them, it's like the boy who cried wolf. But we know what happened in that story. The wolf eventually came. It says since he launched his invasion of UKR last year, prompting condemnation and alarm across the world. But with each new threat, Moscow's rivals and adversaries seem to be growing increasingly skeptical that Putin would actually use such a weapon. By the way, just this article, if this ends up getting to Vlad himself, I don't know, man. It's like, you know how those guys are. Like, it's kind of like guys in a bar. Like, well, you looked at me? Yeah, I looked at you, but I was actually looking at the pole back there. But you looked at me, right? Well, yeah, kind of. I did officially. I mean, I did look at you, but I wasn't trying to look at you. Oh, you weren't trying to look at me? Wait, is there a problem with you looking at me? Am I too much to look at? Huh? Let's go. Huh? 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 My chest to your chest? Let's do this, buddy. Oh, you think I'm chicken? The game of chicken with dudes is just one that never ends well. Over the weekend, Putin announced a plan to place tactical nuclear weapons in Belarus, which borders members of the EU and NATO. By summer, tactical nuclear weapons, known as battlefield nukes, are generally intended for use on a smaller scale on shorter ranges and are less powerful than strategic nuclear weapons. That said, tactical nuclear weapons still have the capacity to wreak havoc and take the lives of tens of thousands of people. Through NATO condemned Putin's rhetoric as dangerous and irresponsible, the alliance also said that it had not seen any changes in Russia's nuclear posture that would lead us to adjust our own. In other words, NATO signaled that it was monitoring the situation but not taking any major steps in the response. Similarly, the National Security Council spokesman John Kirby on Sunday told CBS News that the White House hadn't seen anything to indicate Putin was preparing to use tactical nuclear weapons in any way whatsoever in UKR. I don't know if they're making an official statement saying we don't think they're going to use them. That makes me think, oh, are they going to use them? Because it's always the opposite. A tactical nuke wouldn't be so big that it would cause a response of a massive, mutually assured destruction type of thing, but it would be big enough to get us into a war, especially if they showed us scenes of horrid things and it repeated on the news for months at a time. People would immediately start joining the military everywhere, all over the world. Let's go to war. And everybody would be red in the eyes because, of course, they would show us some horrid destruction that, of course, will tug our heartstrings. That's what I fear we will see soon. I can also tell you that we haven't seen anything that would cause us to change our own strategic nuclear deterrent posture. Fudge. Sorry, guys. Just got bit by a spider. Yikes. Man. Just looks like a house spider. Man, that was nuts. I've never felt a spider bite before. Not actually seen it. Sorry. Dex.
Hope it wasn't a brown recluse.
No, it's the same one. We have actually I think it might be the false widows. We have false widows here. They look like they call them false widows because they look like brown, or they look like black widows, or black widows. They look like black widows, but they're not as poisonous. They can be poisonous. They can leave a hole in you, but I've been bit so many times. My thing is next to the garage, so oh man, if you guys have, they're really ugly, nasty spiders. Anyways,
so there's no hope of you coming back on tomorrow's show and like shooting webs out of your wrists or anything, right?
No, unfortunately not. And if I did, I would want to go back to high school just one more time, to do a backflip and get the girl. But little hope that's going to happen. Especially, my wife wouldn't like that. So anyways, world's arsenal of nuclear weapons now has the power of 135,000 Hiroshima bombs. Dex, you want to cover that?
That's so. The statistics are always out there, but the number's growing. That's the one thing to keep in mind. While the U.S. and Vlad have spent a great deal of time for many years not expanding. Of course, as the very beginning of the show, we talked about the fears, especially from the Air Force commander, the former Air Force commander, saying his biggest fear is the nuclear expansion with China. So, but 135,000 of the Hiroshima size, that's the equivalent of everything that we have right now, and that is more than enough to probably take the world out many times over. It's way more than is even fathomably needed. But we have them and we're making more. When I say we, I mean we as the collective world, because you've got NK spinning up as many as they can, and they've been doing it since the 50s. So they probably have the biggest head start on anybody besides the Vlad and the US and G, since he's got so much money. He's obviously spinning up numerous nukes. They've trying to go from just a few hundred to thousands and reach the level of nukes that the U.S. and Russia has. Of course, you've got the I country in the Middle East wanting to get theirs as well, and you've got plenty of other countries in the Middle East that already have them. So yeah, there's plenty to go around, and I don't think this number is actually going to get any smaller. It's an unfortunate thing because I think it's one thing I think most people would agree it would be nice if we didn't have these. I don't know that there's outside of, a sign of strength, does it do any other good? to have, a weapon of this strength, because, and especially in the scenarios that we have now, where the balance has been mostly between two big superpowers, and now it's about to be between three, which makes it easy for two to gang up on one. And that's sort of the fear, I guess, as Xi expands his nuclear arsenal. So anyway, long story short, the number is 135,000. That's what they're talking about. But that's the equivalence of what there's two that we dropped in Japan. That's a pretty significant number.
Yeah, 135,000, right? That's why they say we could destroy the world. By the way, I just want to point out, this was what was on my foot here. Let me see if I can get a shot of that. That is so nuts. I don't know if you guys can see that. He was a big one. Smushed it. Look at that thing, dude. I don't know if any of you have ever... That is like the just freakiest thing. If you've ever had a spider on you and then actually see it. I've had it a couple times. I've never been bit at the same time, but have you ever like felt something on you and then rub it and you smush a huge spider or something? I looked down and that thing was literally biting me, and I felt it. Oh man. And I kind of I might be nauseous just thinking about it, but yeah, just freaky. Ugh. If you guys are like me with spiders, then you know exactly the feeling. It's just ugh. Anyways, if you haven't already, make sure to go to marfooglenews.com/prep. It's a live show. Anything can happen. And then, again, this is awesome because it is one of the most affordable ways you can get a whole bunch of bulk food all at once. It is all freeze-dried. It will last 25 years. So, again, this is something that will be good until at least 2052. And it is freeze-dried, so it holds a lot of the flavor. Basically, it extracts all of the moisture from it. It seals it in, and it keeps it good for over 2 decades. So this is a great way, and freeze drying is a process that actually keeps a whole lot of the flavor in. Once you return water into it, or cook it in water, or cook it in sauce, then you have the original food just like it was packed right then. Again, it is one of the best way to preserve food, but again, this is something that is not cheap to do on your own. In fact, freeze dryers can cost, thousands of dollars. If you want to get it pre-done, just ready to go, this is a good way to do it, an affordable way to do it compared to some of their competitors. This is now $200 off. It's a $597, which is $600 for 3 months. That breaks down to about $200 per month for everything you need for 3 months of food. That can be broken down. If you have 2 people, that's 45 days for 2 people, or a month for 3 people. It's a very good way to bulk up and not do it in a lot of space. I believe the 3 month is 2 buckets. So stack those. You have 3 months right there. It's definitely a good space saver. So make sure to go over and check it out. Also, make sure to look into getting one of their meat buckets. A lot of these end up having meat substitutes and things like that. They have all the proteins and the things you need, but again, or all of the different ingredients you need to get some substance. I would definitely look into the freeze-dried meat packages. And again, you can get a huge discount right now at marfooglenews.com/prep. With our link, not only will you help us out at the same time, you'll get one of your things checked off a list. So go over to marfooglenews.com/prep. And if you do it now, you'll get $200 off on that. Again, some of their competitors can range up to almost close to $2,000 for some of them. So great deal right now. Make sure to go over and check it out. And could the Restrict Act criminalize the use of VPNs? Dex, did I not just say this like 2 days ago? Was it last night or the night before? It's like they're reading our minds. I just talked about how in the future, because AI would be so bad and so rampant that you wouldn't know what was a real human being and what was an AI generated voice with a deep fake on it. You wouldn't know. And it's going to be such a problem. There might even be events in the future, like our president coming on and saying, everybody needs to get in their shelter. And the whole country freaks out and they go, oh, sorry, it was just an AI. And some Russian group hacked into the TV system and did it as an emergency. It's a very specific example, but that's something that could happen, right? And then they go, well, this can't happen again. We need every single household, every single user that's going on the internet to have a digital ID, and you can't use a VPN. This is where I think it is headed. Dex, could the Restrict Act criminalize the use of VPNs?
It's not the intention, at least as stated by the authors. But the mess of a bill has been set out to not necessarily ban TikTok by name, but it's trying to give power to authorities to identify, deter, or to go after anybody that can causing a problem using transactions. And the way they wrote it, it's like, yeah, you can apply this to TikTok, but you can apply it to anybody using a VPN, like what, and so that's what they're sort of in a predicament now with this bill, is how do they adjust the language, and if they don't, then does this go into place, and it basically sets us up to be a nanny state, just like they have in China. So I think it's a big concern. On the good side, or at least the good part, is that they're saying, hey, that's not the intention. So usually when that happens, it means they know they need to go fix the holes, if there's holes in it, in this case, like these big holes. But if they're just saying that and it's smoke and mirrors to get it to go through, then it becomes a problem. And I think that's what we need to pay attention and be vigilant about, is whether or not this act is that they're trying to get passed, which will go after the likes of TikTok and anyone else that is potentially doing harmful things to our to the users of the internet in our country. That I think the intent is to give them the tools to do that, but the way they've worded it is what's really cause for concern here. So it's been described as confusing at best. Basically, the Commerce Secretary would be the authorized to take steps to address risks posed by, quote unquote, any covered transaction by any person. So it's like those types of broad statements, like any covered transaction by any person, is where you start to get into these areas where people start to wonder, what does that exactly mean? And that could be applied to just about anybody. So if you were to say, use a VPN to try to get to TikTok, or use a VPN to try to get to a service that they say is not allowed, then you're breaking the law. And then by breaking the law, are you, subject to $1 million fine and 20 years in prison, which is what it says. So, it's one thing for them to have a law to go after a corporation or a company or an adversarial country that is doing something with technology that is harmful to our citizens, tracking them or gathering data off of them or things like that. Like that, there makes sense to have a law like that and to have some sort of mechanism to which prevent them to do it or to fine them significantly if they get caught. The downside is you don't want this law to be one that could actually be applied to everyone in America or anyone in the actions that they may be trying to take up upon the internet, which should be a free and open area for people to use information and look up information.
And some of the comments about, I think that's about the TikTok thing. A few people said that was last night's show that I said that it wasn't exactly around the TikTok thing. My theory is a little bit different, just about the whole that something will get out of control to the point where you can't use VPNs, something like this. It's just crazy to see a headline exactly like this the day after I said exactly that. Said that in the future you probably won't be able to use VPNs for some reason. Is this the reason why this could happen through a coincidence of whatever this other stuff that's going on? Think about it. They don't want people to be anonymous and be able to do things on the computer especially be able to find information or hack into these rich elites that got bad things on their computer. Do you think they want somebody to hack into them, and then when they go to try to catch them, they go, oh, well, we don't know who it is? Of course not. They want to be able to track them right down to their very location and be able to find exactly who did it, right? Lots of spider comments. People are said, I'm going to be checking for spiders now. Somebody said, watch the color around that bite. I'm absolutely sure. I know it. We have had so many of them. And at first I thought it was brown. I thought we had brown recluse. We do have them in Washington. But I looked at the exact markings. I even went onto a website and uploaded the photos. So they had 2 experts look at it because previously it bit one of my kids about a year ago. And we sent a picture in of it. And they were able to tell us that it was a false widow. And we found a nest of them. We even had a bug person find a nest of false widows in our garage. And it was freaky. But we still have them. And did everything to get rid of them. And they come back. And I think it's because the neighbor or something. That even if we get rid of them, they don't. But anyways, they can leave. If I think my body is used to it by now. Because the first time it left a hole, and it basically what spiders do is they emulsify their victims. They turn flesh into juice, and that's how the first one was. The second one was a little bit smaller. Now it leaves a red mark for like 2 or 3 days, but it doesn't do anything. My mom was bit by a brown recluse twice, and the first time she almost lost her leg. She had a thing this big, but after that she got bit and it barely affected her, and they knew it was a brown recluse. So you do get a what do you call it? You get not used to it. Dex, what word am I looking for? You gain a
tolerance.
Not a tolerance.
Immunity.
Immunity. You get immune to the certain fangs or venoms and things. But I don't know about that. The one stuff that they put in you emulsifies their victims. So I don't know how you could get used to that. But apparently you can. Let's see here. And then, I hate spiders. I would not go to sleep. Have you ever seen one that goes under, it's a big one or something, it goes under your bed or something, and then it's there. Or it will slip into a vent or something. I will not stop until I find that thing. And most of the times I would, take them outside or something, but I will admit I have flushed plenty. But you just can't sleep. That thing's crawling around. And that when I found out that factoid that they say that we swallow 7 spiders a year or something crazy like that, that kept me up for days on end. I absolutely cannot take spiders. I already know there's going to be a few tough guys in the comments. Oh, you're a weenie. You can't handle spiders. They'll get like 10 of those comments. Oh, you can't handle. You're a weenie. I eat spiders for breakfast. You eat spiders for breakfast? That's disgusting. All right, and Dex, let's just a quick reminder, our mods have done an amazing job tonight. Make sure to thank them. Everybody, if you can, put a heart emoji in the chat there for the mods, and make sure to go subscribe to them. Go check out their books. Go check out their creations. Chance has books on Amazon. He is, again, been producing books and, again, writing books that are really awesome. So make sure to go check them out. CJ Blaze, Jammer, Bones, Lisa R. Hall, one of the sweetest ladies in the world, Reb Curl Readiness. I wish he was around more. He's so busy. It's unfortunate, but one of the smartest guys ever. He has a great channel. RJL Harris, one of the sweetest ladies in the world. She is so funny and so awesome. Ilea, probably the funniest woman I know. And then Trinity Red or Blue Pill Hi Ho Kermit the Frog here. Does excellent videos, edited, spends hours and hours and hours editing her videos. So make sure to go pay her a visit. And then Wages World, who is closing in on 60,000 subscribers. Make sure to go head over and subscribe. He covers solar activity, any kind of big solar event. You can almost make sure that he is going to be covering it. So go over to marfooglenews.com/friends. And then, Dex, let's talk about the web only.
Head over to marfooglenews.com. Head over to...
There we go.
Head over to marfooglenews.com, click on the thumbnail for the show, or open up that show notes link. It's in the description on YouTube and Rumble. Just click that first link you'll find there. It'll take you right here to this webpage with all of the news we just covered. You'll hit this yellow bar, and it says overflow. That's the rest of the story. So we have plenty of updates going on with UKR, even a little bit with G and in China. For example, did you know if you're one of the Western companies that are exiting Vlad's country, they're taxing you. They're calling it a donation, but they're forcing you to make a payment on the way out because he's trying to recoup some of the sanction money, just like we talked about with the oil. And matter of fact, there's a plane stuck in Canada. It's been there for a long time. It's got $300,000 in parking fees, a Russian plane. So all of those updates are there. Don't expect to see anything from the Manhattan jury for a month now. They've now broke for a month. So that's been put on hold. So the political stuff might settle down just a little bit, hopefully. Those updates are there. There's a little bit of updates of what's going on with Nashville and some of the other stuff, like Baldwin and what's happening there. Of course, some metaverse updates, or as they call it, metaverse. I think everybody's just really crapping on him now, with the lack of adoption that has been found with that technology. Some updates going on with Mexico, specifically with tourists, as well as
Mexico.
Think about this. They're talking about potentially creating another no-fly list, but this is for unruly passengers. So, hey, that and a lot more. So it's all on there, including basic training without yelling. I don't think that was possible. Just to me, basic training is, in my mind, has always included yelling. But apparently, if you want to know about it, go check it out. It's on the website. That and so much more. It's all right there. It's the rest of the story. We put it together for you every night. marfooglenews.com. Click on the thumbnail for the show, or open up the show notes link. It's in the description. Very easy to get to.
Well, thank you, Dex. Thank you. I appreciate you. And thank you for your service tonight.
Much love. Great job, brother.
Make sure to go check out everything over on, and somebody laughed, said web only. The whole spider. But now it is time for the shoutro. It's not an outro, it's not a shout out, it's a shoutro. The shoutro is where we say thank you to the people that matter most. You. Top supporter tonight, Schaefer Girl. Thank you so much for your support, along with over on D Live. Looks like Scooby Doo Right and Beer Juice. Thank you guys. Appreciate you. Schaefer Girl. Lifeboat morning viewer now. It doesn't matter how far they push the envelope, it will still be stationary. Matthew Michael, thank you for the super chat. LOD Will, Charles Goki, Spider Cookies with Chalk Chips. All the way, baby.
I said shape for girl. I said oh, shape for girl. Shape for I said shape shake shake for girl. 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 Shake shake for girl.
Ba-ba-ba-ba-ba-ba-ba-ba-ba-ba-ba-ba-ba-ba-ba-ba-ba-ba-ba-ba-ba-ba-ba-ba-ba-ba-ba-ba-ba-ba-ba-ba-ba-ba-ba-ba-ba-ba-ba-ba-ba-ba-ba-ba-ba-ba-ba-ba-ba-ba-ba-ba-ba-ba-ba-ba-ba-ba-ba-ba-ba-ba-ba-ba-ba-ba-ba-ba-ba-ba-ba-ba-ba-ba-ba-ba-ba-ba-ba-ba-ba-ba-ba-ba-ba-ba-ba-ba-ba-ba-ba-ba-ba-ba-ba-ba-ba-ba-ba-ba-ba-ba-ba-ba-ba-ba-ba-ba-ba-ba-ba-ba-ba-ba-ba-ba-ba-ba-ba-ba-ba-ba-ba-ba-ba-ba-ba-ba-ba-ba-ba-ba-ba-ba-ba-ba-ba-ba-ba-ba-ba-ba-ba-ba-ba-ba-ba-ba-ba-ba-ba-ba-ba-ba-ba-ba-ba-ba-ba-ba-ba-ba-ba-ba-ba-ba-ba-ba-ba-ba-ba-ba-ba-ba-ba-ba-ba-ba-ba-ba-ba-ba-ba-ba-ba-ba-ba-ba-ba-